everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and right over there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello. I'm a little flustered
Nikki,
this morning.
I don't know who I feel for more, you or your husband this morning.
Feel for both of us because it's really annoying. Technology, Pete Wright, is not my friend.
Technology. It is, so what I understand, we're recording this a little bit differently this morning because you don't have any internet, because as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody told your husband to do something and now you have no internet.
Correct.
And I imagine that he just took it apart. Whatever it was, he took it apart on advice of a family member, and now you have no internet.
Right. And it just happened to be 20 minutes before I was supposed to record this podcast. And everybody else now has internet except for me. And guess who needs it the most?
You right now. Right. You and immediately right now. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
so I am
sorry for that. My hope is that we are doing this in such a way that you can't even tell. You can't even tell that Nikki has no internet. This is we have two cans and a string between our homes, 100 miles away.
Yeah. We're good. Right. We're going to make this work. Like, I wanted just to postpone. I'm like, let's just reschedule. You're like, oh no, I have a way. Pete always has a way. Yes,
we absolutely have a routine. Every Friday we record this show at 10 o'clock. And
yes.
By gum, we are sticking to that schedule.
Yes, we are.
Do we have any news to tell the people about before we get started today?
Yes, I do. I do have news.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the news.
Yes. Well, I want to talk about group coaching because it's coming up soon. I have an opening that's going to start on September 13th. That's a Wednesday. And so I wanted people to know about that. If you're interested in joining a group, now is the time to do that. That it's 10 weeks of group calls, plus you get one individual session with me. And it's a great way to connect with other people who are going through very similar things, same challenges, same successes. They have stories to share and strategies to share. Great way to get support, inspiration, and a chance to learn new things, but also offer what you know too. So wanted everybody to know that that's coming up. And if you happen to be listening to this after the group has already started, you can still go to the website and put yourself on my waiting list for the next one, because I do offer these periodically. So this is something that if you can't do right now, definitely get your name on there and sign up. And yeah, I'd love to see you.
What I love so much about the group coaching, and as it happens, I've been working on some stuff for you on your website, and I just love what people say about the group coaching, and particularly how it has changed for you, right? How the whole experience of leading a group coaching group, it's different than individual coaching. The whole idea around the importance, the preciousness of the community that participants are building together as they go on this journey together. We just can't understate that. It's a really powerful experience to sort of be a guide on this journey and to do this together. It's incredibly powerful.
It is. And it's definitely a collaboration. And I think that's what's so cool about it is that, there's not a set agenda. The group sort of decides what that's going to be and they go with it wherever they want it to go. And it's just a really great experience. I've always learned myself so much from these groups. And that's the thing, is that every group has been different. And that's what's so exciting for me as a coach to be a part of, is to see how the different personalities and different people and different stages of their life, how they can all be so different and still come together and have this wonderful connection. And yeah, it's great. I love it.
Again, that is Wednesdays beginning September 13th through November 15th for this particular session. And that doesn't mean it necessarily has to end. If you like sticking together, and then, we can work that out, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Always
so
an
it's
option.
that particular group is going to be meeting at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern time on those Wednesdays. So very much looking forward to that. Registration on the website right now. Make sure you get your spot. These are small groups, so there aren't a lot of spots.
No, there isn't. So yeah, if you want to be a part of September, definitely sign up as soon as you can. And if there's a demand, I'm open to opening more sessions. I'm not opposed to that, but definitely get your name on that list if you want to do the Wednesday, September 1 for sure.
Absolutely.
September
all right.
through
What was
November,
your other?
Oh,
what's your other announcement?
This is something that dawned on me last week, that I did a webinar last week called How to Build an ADHD-Friendly Morning Routine. And I realized that I don't really talk a lot about my webinars that I do on the podcast, and I think I rarely do, actually. And I thought, I want people to know that are listening that I do these webinars periodically. And because I don't necessarily talk a lot about it on the podcast, I really want to encourage you, if you're interested in attending them, and they're always about different topics, to get onto my newsletter. And the easiest way to do that is to get onto the website, but I'm assuming, Pete, that you can put that in the show notes as well.
Whatever you want, I can do it.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
I just want to make it really easy for listeners to get on that newsletter so that you are aware of when upcoming webinars are coming and what they are, and if you're interested to, sign up and show. And they're free. They're free of charge. So I just wanted to point that out because it dawned on me that I don't really talk too much about that part of my business. So I wanted people to know about it.
Absolutely. And these webinars are great. I mean, they're great topics. They always come with handy downloads and cheat sheets and things you can do to make substantive change in your life. And the commitment is not that great. I mean, it's join Nikki for an hour or so and get your questions answered and make some change. What's your next webinar? When's the next one coming up?
That's a good question.
Did I spoil something? Should I not ask?
I'm planning that. No. October is ADHD Awareness Month as well as Breast Cancer Month. So I want to, throw both of those out there. And I'm going to be planning to do, I think, more than just one webinar in the month of October. I think I'm going to do something special. So that's coming soon. I will definitely make sure I announce that. And I'll announce it on the podcast now that we're talking about it. We have it's still in the future. So,
we got some time.
It's going to be in October for sure. Maybe in September, but October for sure.
Okay, well, so definitely get on that mailing list so that you don't miss the announcements about these webinars, because it's good stuff. All right, let's talk about routines, shall we?
Well, and it's funny because we're going to talk about routines because that was my last webinar, and it actually inspired me to talk about what I want to talk about today. See how this is like full circle?
It is. It's the circle of life. You're practically Simba.
Aww.
Aww.
That's so sweet.
Before we dig into our conversation about routines here and how your routines can help you make new habits and make lasting change in your life, I want you to head over to Take Control ADHD. Make sure you get to know us a little bit better. Sign up for that newsletter on the website and make sure you don't miss a single episode. We also send you an email each week when an episode goes live so you don't miss it. You can connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD, or call us, leave us a voicemail at 503-664-4ADD and get your voice, your thoughts, your questions on this show. And don't forget, 5-star reviews in iTunes and recommendations in your favorite podcast player. They really do help others discover the show when they need help. So pay it forward, drop us a kind review, and help those that come in your footsteps.
Oh, and when they're doing that review, they need to check out our new photo.
We have fancy new album art.
We do. We have a fancy new album art. So you can see fancy art. Sounded like I said fart.
Slow down.
No kidding. Fancy new art.
That's right. It is fancy new art.
I know.
It's good.
Yeah, so check that out.
They're constantly making changes on me. They're making changes everywhere. The Apple Podcasts and all these podcasts, but they're making changes on me, making me have to shake things up. But in this case, we got new art as a result, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so check that out. All right.
Let's talk about routines. What did you come away with this from your last webinar that you want to share with the good people?
Okay. Well, this is what the topic's going to be about today. We're not going to go into detail about morning routines because that really was what the webinar was about. But what I want to talk about is basically two things that I think everybody needs to know about any routine to really have it be successful. So it doesn't matter if it's a morning routine, evening routine, whatever. Okay.
All right. Yes. So I'm ready.
Let's first talk about what a routine does. The routine really is like a plan, right? It kind of gives you that map from how do I get up in the morning to how do I leave the door on time. And in the evening, it could be how do I, start winding down and then get to bed at 11 o'clock or whatever. So it really gives us a plan from going from A to B, and it gives us just enough structure so that we know what we're doing. We don't have to think too much about it, right? You're going step by step, and the best thing I think about routines for a lot of people is they don't have to have that stress of what did I forget or,
totally
whatever. Yeah. But this is what you need to know, I think, in having any routine work. And the first thing I suggest people do is to track the time that it takes for them to do their routine. And it's the real time. So it's not just the time that you want it to be, or that you'll necessarily think it's going to be. So, right, we've talked about this before with ADHD. It's hard to estimate time. It's fluid for many people.
Miserable.
Yeah, there's not a beginning. There's not an end. We think it's only going to take us an hour to get ready in the morning, but it ends up always being an hour and 15 minutes. We would like it to be only an hour, but that's just not the case. And so what I encourage people to do is if you're looking at your routines, and now is a great time to do that because we are transitioning from that from summer to fall, right? And many parents out there are trying to figure out how to get their kids, on the school buses on time. So now is a great time to maybe do a practice run through and take your time in the sense that don't try to rush through it, and also don't take so much time that it's not realistic, and really track the real time it takes you to get up in the morning to when you have to leave. And is it an hour or is it an hour and a half? And the other piece that I want people to look at when they're tracking their time is what are the distractions that are happening, and log those down as well. I notice that I'm getting distracted because the news is on and I'm watching the headlines instead of getting ready. Well, that could be like a 5-minute a time frame that you are now wasting. But if you want that time, then you got to incorporate it into the real time. So now you have to add 5 minutes to your routine. You got to be able to make some
choices.
Right. And I think that that's one of the mistakes that people do is they don't really track the real time.
How are they doing? Like when we talk about this really practically, right? So you wake up in the morning, you just get out a blank sheet of paper and a stopwatch. I mean, what do you do whatever
you want. Yeah. I think it can be as simple. I wouldn't do anything real elaborate because then we're missing the point, right? Then we're paying too much detail on the tracking. Yeah. But yeah, something very simple that, you may even want to estimate that you think it's going to take an hour, and, you just log it on a piece of paper that at 8 o'clock I woke up and, I went through everything that needed to get done, and it took actually an hour and 15 minutes, which tells you that you can't get up at 7 o'clock and think you're going to leave at 8 if it really took you an hour and 15 minutes. So now you're going to have to either adjust the time you get up or adjust your routine in such a way that you have less to do.
We're not saying that you need to do this every day for a month, right?
Oh, no. I'm just saying do it for a couple of times just to get an idea how long it really takes you to do these things. So if you have 10 tasks, how long does it really take you to do the 10 tasks? You can probably track your time for maybe 2, maybe 3 days and have a good idea of what that pattern looks like. So no, I don't want it to be labor intensive by any means. That data isn't going to help you. The data that's going to help you is just, a couple of days.
Well, and especially if you already have a routine. Like if your routine is I get up and I look at my phone for, but I'm not quite sure how long I do it. I just know that first I look at my phone and then I kind of stumble out of bed and I take a shower and then I turn on the TV and that's going, and then I go down and you already have a routine. Most of us already have routines. They're just all not that effective, right? And there's a lot of inefficient sort of time wasters in there that are unaccounted for. And so, it may be that you get a lot of data out of doing this for just one day.
I would do it for at least 2. Mm-hmm. Just because you want some kind of comparison, because you never know, that one day could have been kind of weird for some reason. But yes, I agree. I think that if you do it even in just 2 days, you're going to get a lot of data, because the reality
we're just not saying, because I'm just saying like I would never be able to commit for more than a couple of days. Like I'd lose interest so fast. It's just.
Absolutely. And it's not going to make any difference. If you do it past 2 days, it's not going to be any different than if you did it the first 2 days, right? We're just collecting the initial data.
Right.
So the intention of the exercise is really for people who are running late every day. If you're okay with your routine, whether it be morning or evening, then you don't need to track your time and you don't need to know what the real time is. But if you're constantly running 15, 20 minutes late, or your mornings are constantly chaotic and you don't know why, and you want to fix it, this is what I'm saying. This is where you start. You've got to track the time. You got to figure out how long are you giving yourself enough time. And if you're not, again, you go back to either having to get up at a different time or adjusting what you're doing in your routine. And, one of the things that I talked about in the webinar is what can you do in the evening then? If you need to cut something that's being done in the morning, what can you do in the evening? And then the other idea that I gave to folks was, on your checklist, when you're looking at the morning checklist, this is the same with the evening one too. What's the most important? What has to be done, and what would be nice to be done, but isn't going to be the end of the world if you don't get it done. And that can kind of help you prioritize too, that, okay, well, if I have 10 things on my list and I know the top 5 have to be done and I have those done now, but I'm running late, then you can just leave without having to kind of worry about those other ones. But if you still have the time, then, you can go ahead and finish the list. And this actually leads into my second thing that you need to know.
Okay, what is that? Consistency.
There's a lot of people that ask me about consistency and how can I make my routine consistent? What I was just alluding to when I was talking about the not now and kind of like nice to have list is that I would encourage people to accept that you're not going to be consistent 100% of the time, because every day is different. So some days you're going to have great days. You're going to have great mornings. You're going to get out of the door. Everybody's going to be happy. But then you might have that morning that just completely is, just drains you. Right? Yeah. Because so many distractions happened. You didn't allow for them. You weren't expecting them. Maybe your kid got sick, or you got sick, or your dog got sick, right? All of these things can happen. And so I think that one of the benefits of having a routine in place and really thinking it through is that you have this map now. So even that's better than not having any map at all. So even if you can't do it 5 times in a row, like, Monday through Friday, if you can be as consistent as possible, that's still going to, basically be better for you than where you were. And so we're always looking for progress, not perfection. Because I think that some people get really down on themselves if they have 1 or 2 days that didn't go exactly what they expected, then they think they failed, or they think the routine has failed. And that's what I want people to know is that, the reality is, you're not going to be always consistent, and that's okay. That's totally normal. And, you just do it again tomorrow, you try again, and, you hope for a better day. And there you have it.
I love it. So, I think the things that really stand out for me, one is don't, I guess is a word of warning, which you said, but just to reiterate, don't bury yourself in complexity of tracking your just be simple and practical. Blank sheet of paper and look at a clock and commit to doing it for a couple of days.
And just do your best. I mean, if do your best. Yeah, you're just collecting.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
No, because all you're doing is collecting data on yourself. Yeah. That's all. You're just paying attention. You're paying more attention these couple of days because you know that with the information you get, you're going to be able to use that and you're going to be able to figure out what you need to do next.
So that you can build a map of your time and find the bleeding holes where where you're just losing time and that are making you late. I totally relate to the mystery of lateness, right?
Yeah,
it's just a mystery. It just occurred to me yesterday, in fact, as I was running late to pick up my daughter, and I'm pretty much on time for things, now I always use drive time in my calendars. I always plan for stuff, but it didn't occur to me until yesterday as I'm sitting in afternoon traffic, not even 5 o'clock traffic. It was like 2:30 traffic. And I realized my city, my fair city, Portland, blessed Portland, my fair hippie beatnik city has terrible big city traffic all the time now. It wasn't like that 20 years ago when we moved here. It is now like that. It's terrible all the time, and it's just the way of it. But it wasn't until I was like really mapping out my drive time for the week that I realized I am sunk. I am not allowing enough time to be in the car. And I wouldn't have known that had I not been sitting down and really investigating my calendar. That's one of those potential holes that you have to take into account. Are you giving yourself enough time to get wherever you need to go? So it's hugely important.
I think that's a great example. If you may want your morning commute to be only an hour, but it may not allow you to do that. So that means, like you said, I have to leave earlier or whatever it is. So I think that's a great example.
Right.
And, I love watching the Today Show while I get ready. Shout out to Matt, Savannah, and Al, and Dylan. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so I allow those distractions to happen. I know that if I'm going to do that, I'm going to, it's going to take me a little bit longer to get ready than if I didn't have the TV on. Then it would be probably 15, 20 minutes shorter. And so I think it's okay to allow those things and just know that, this is something I really want in the morning. Same thing, like if you're trying to put in exercise and meditation and those things. I mean, those are such important self-care things that we want to add those in and not try to rush through them or anything. And then I think the second point is just accepting that it's okay if you're not consistent every day. I think that people, again, feel like they failed somehow if they're not consistent every day. And that's just not the case. I mean, we just don't have control over everything. I mean, we just don't, right? And so I think the routine is a huge benefit because at least it does give you that map and that kind of structure to go by or go off of. But it's just, it's not always going to be perfect. We're always just looking for progress.
I love it. Particularly that last point, and I've been thinking a lot about it lately, right? That you feel like a failure if you're not consistent or if you're doing it wrong,
Right, right.
And the feeling of failure is sometimes something we can't control, but at least be aware of that is not fact and truth, right? The fact is you were late one day. That's the end of it, right? You were late, and tomorrow you'll do it better, right? Build your map. Understand what it is, and move forward. Keep moving forward.
Because remember when we talked about the all or nothing thinking? Mm-hmm. This is an example of that, right?
Yes,
and you might want to put the notes in that for that show because that was a great show, and that is something that I talk to my clients about every day because we get caught in that. We get caught in the all or nothing, that if it's not 5 days in a row, then it's not good enough. If it's one day where I was late, then it's not good enough. And yes, I think just recognizing and being aware that, wait a minute, that's not the only option. Just like when we were talking about time tracking, we don't have to track it for a month. We can track it for a day or two. Right? So we don't have to go to that place that feels awful. And so, I'm glad you bring that up because I think that's just another really important point to have listeners think about is that, am I getting caught up in that all or nothing thinking? Real quick, I do want people to know I have an online course about time management, right? It's such a clever name, isn't it? It's organizing time with ADHD. I know, it's so clever. But I want people to check that out, because if this routine and this tracking time, and just if you want to get a better relationship with your time and like it, then I really suggest, please check out that online course. And of course, if you have any questions, let me know. You can email me directly at Nikki@TakeControlADHD, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. But I wanted to make sure people knew that there was extra support around time management.
Yes, very, very important, particularly when you're thinking about your routines. Check that out. All the links in the show notes. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We deeply appreciate your time and attention. And here's hoping this came off without a hitch. If you're hearing this and everything sounds normal, then all of the hoops that we jumped through to make this work, our tin cans paid off. Thank you, Nikki. Thanks for your flexibility.
Thank you for thinking outside of the box. That was a perfect all or nothing thinking. I was just going to can it, say, hey, let's postpone. You're like, no way, man. We're doing this.
No way. We're on schedule. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll catch you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.